All right, let's get right into it. When you picture Miami Beach, you're probably thinking of sunshine, sandy beaches, all those beautiful Art Deco hotels, right? But what you don't see is that underneath all that glamour, there's a hidden war being fought, a constant battle, not against some invading army, but against the very ground the city is built on. So, what is this enemy? What is this relentless force? Now, if you're thinking it's just the ocean, with rising sea levels, you're only seeing a tiny piece of the puzzle. The real threat is way more sneaky than that.
Yeah, it is not just the ocean. That's the obvious bad guy, the one we all see. But the city's biggest enemy is actually launching a surprise attack from a direction you would never, ever expect.
That's right. The barrier island, the very foundation of porous limestone and sand that Miami Beach sits on, is actively trying to take the land back. And you know what its main battlefield is? The city's plumbing.
So, that brings us to our first section. Here we're going to see how a problem that seems super small, something you might just ignore, is actually a massive warning sign of a much bigger fight. Think about it. For most of us, a slow drain is just an annoyance. You grab some Drano, maybe call a plumber, problem solved. But on a barrier island like Miami Beach, that same slow drain is a red alert. It's a symptom of an underground environmental war that's been quietly raging for decades.
So let's get a better look at this enemy. What does this environmental attack actually consist of? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a full-on assault on multiple fronts, happening 24/7. The island is basically waging war on 4 distinct fronts. Each one targets the city's infrastructure in a different but equally destructive way. Let's break these down. First off, you've got saltwater corrosion. And I'm not just talking about a little rust. The very air is salty, and the groundwater is brackish. This stuff is a nightmare for metal. It literally just eats away at pipes, fittings, and connections from the outside in. Next is the high water table. The island is barely above sea level, so the groundwater is always pushing up on underground pipes. But here's the really wild part. That constant moisture is like sending a written invitation for tree roots to invade sewer lines, seeking out water and nutrients. They just choke the life out of them. The third front is the ground itself. It's not solid bedrock. It's this unstable mix of porous limestone and sand. This stuff is always settling and shifting. So if you have pipes encased in a concrete slab, that constant movement creates incredible stress. Until, eventually, crack! That's how you get slab leaks. And finally, you've got an attack that starts from above but does its real damage from below: storm surge. During a hurricane or even just one of those king tides, salt water gets forced backwards through the drain systems. This doesn't just flood properties, it sends a wave of corrosive salt water to attack all the pipes from the inside. Okay, with an enemy this relentless, you'd think the city's defenses would have to be perfect. But as we're about to see, much of Miami Beach's infrastructure is dangerously unprepared for this kind of fight. And this is absolutely critical. Think about those gorgeous, historic Art Deco buildings. So many of them are still running on their original plumbing from the 1930s and 40s. That is almost a century of constant abuse in one of the harshest environments you can imagine. So, what's the actual difference we're talking about here? Well, the old systems used galvanized steel, a material that practically starts rusting if you just look at it wrong in this salty air. Today, the standard is PEX and copper, materials specifically engineered to survive this kind of coastal assault. The difference in durability is just night and day. These old galvanized pipes are a ticking time bomb, truly. They rust from the inside out, which chokes your water flow and can even harbor nasty bacteria. But the biggest problem? They often fail completely, catastrophically, and with absolutely no warning. It turns a tiny leak into a full-blown flood in seconds. But the city is not just sitting back and taking it. There's a whole specialized field, let's call it coastal plumbing, that uses high-tech strategies and advanced materials to fight back. Let's dig into how they build a stronger defense. So for every unique problem, there's a specific high-tech solution. For those slab leaks caused by the shifting ground, technicians use these incredible electronic listening devices to find the exact break without having to tear up your entire floor. For sewer lines choked with tree roots, they use hydrojetting to blast them clean. It's a really targeted, tactical response. So the modern defensive arsenal has 3 key parts. First, you use marine-grade materials that can actually survive the salt and pressure. Second, you deploy advanced diagnostics, like tiny pipe cameras, to pinpoint problems without any guesswork. And third, you have to strictly adhere to Miami-Dade's building codes, which are some of the toughest in the country for a very good reason.
The modern response is super methodical, as it should be. A call leads to dispatching a licensed, experienced plumber, not just some trainee. They use those advanced tools to diagnose the real cause, get your approval, and then they execute a permanent repair, not just a quick patch. It's all about solving the problem for good. So, what can we all take away from this hidden war? Well, the battle for Miami Beach's plumbing isn't just some local story. It's actually a warning and a powerful lesson for coastal communities all over the world. This quote from the source material really just sums it all up perfectly. In a place like Miami Beach, plumbing isn't just a convenience. It is a critical line of defense. It's the infrastructure holding the line against an environment that is constantly, relentlessly pushing back. And that's exactly why this matters to everyone, no matter where you live. This unique combination of saltwater, shifting ground, and storm surge in Miami Beach is a preview. It's a look into the future of infrastructure challenges that more and more coastal cities are going to face in the coming years. It all leaves us with one final, pretty important question. Every city has its own unique environmental pressures, its own hidden battles. The war in Miami Beach is fought with pipes and wrenches. So what are the invisible wars being waged under your city's streets? And is its infrastructure really ready for the fight?